It's happened, fam. It's happened. The update that wasn't particularly surprising, but has nonetheless hit today. Highguard just posted an official statement, quote, Highguard's final update arriving soon. Thank you for playing with us. Today, we're sharing difficult news. We have made the decision to permanently shut down Highguard on March 12th. Since launch, more than 2 million players stepped into Highguard's world. You shared feedback, created content, and many believed in what we were building. For that, we are deeply grateful. Despite the passion and hard work of our team, we have not been able to build a sustainable player base to support the game long term. Servers will remain online until March 12th. March 12th. We hope you'll jump in with us one more time to show your support and get those final great matches in while we still can. The team is excited to release one final game update to enjoy in the remaining life of the game. We'll be adding a new warden, a new weapon, account level progression, and skill trees. Full patch notes are coming, and we're targeting tonight or tomorrow morning for patch and release. From all of us at Wildlight, thank you for playing and supporting us and for being part of Highguard's story. No mention of refunds for people who bought cosmetics for a game that will cease to exist in 9 days, but yeah, they're shutting down. And honestly, again, this isn't surprising at all. I think you guys said now this count is like 45 days will be the total life, I think. And honestly, this isn't that surprising because as we've seen, the trail off has been pretty clear. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. And especially once they announced layoffs and it started to just plummet even farther. Nobody wants to get in and get addicted to and committed to a game they know is probably going to be dead in a matter of weeks, which is what happened. That's what happened here. Nobody's going to get committed to it. They have 236 players in game right now, which is still like more than I would have thought, considering the writing's been on the wall for a while. But the fascinating sort of dissonant discussion around Highguard for me has just been the fact that, as they just acknowledged, they've had over 2 million players step in. 2 million players tried Highguard. Nobody can argue people didn't give it a chance. They did. 2 million of them. Can you even imagine? Can you even imagine how much a studio would just kill for the opportunity to have 2 million players come and try their game? The problem is the game just wasn't very good, and it wasn't good enough to keep them. Demonstrably. If the game was good, this number would not have cratered so bad. But it just continued to plummet because it wasn't good enough to hold them. And as they got funding pulled by Tencent, everybody knew the sync was shipping, so they started to bail. And now you end up with where you are now. I think it's a tale of as one of the developers mentioned to Jason Schreier, a tale of hubris for sure, where they didn't want to listen to the critical feedback and be like completely real. They kept comparing themselves over and over and over again to Apex Legends, saying they wanted to launch it the same way Apex did. If they hadn't had the Game Awards reveal, they would have shadow dropped it, which I think would have been an even more disastrous thing. They wouldn't have peaked at 97K on Steam. They probably would have peaked down at like 12,000, maybe lower, maybe like 3,000. I don't think it would have gotten anywhere close to this peak if they shadow dropped it, because they're not Respawn. They're just not. It's not how that works. It's not 2019 anymore, I think is when it launched. It's just not, okay? It's a different universe now. There's way more competition, and there is a real eye roll that happens with most gamers when they hear about another new live service game. Another one. Here we go. Especially when you try to sell it as the second coming, as a new breed of shooter, when clearly most players disagreed. Or if they agreed, they didn't think it was a breed that should continue to exist. You know, and they voted with their time. It's a free-to-play game. They voted with their time and they just uninstalled it. They moved on. That's the problem. Just like Sean Layden said in his interview with Kiwi Talks, which you should absolutely look up. Kiwi Talks, Sean Layden. Very interesting talk. But Sean Layden, you know, notably said, how many live service games can there be? The answer is obviously not 20. The answer is obviously that your game has to be so good that it's not just good enough to engage players. It has to be so good that it pulls them away from a game like Marvel Rivals, Overwatch, Call of Duty, Arc Raiders, Marathon, whatever. It has to pull players away from those and bring them into their fold and keep them there indefinitely. That is a very, 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 very difficult thing to do. Very expensive and time-consuming thing to do. And if you don't hit it out of the park from the outset and retain those players, the big guys like Tencent will just pull funding. They knew probably on Wednesday, the 28th, as the player numbers continue to plummet, Tencent probably was already like, oh, well, pull the funding. Because for them, they're just like, they can see the writing on the wall, as everybody could. This chart doesn't look good. This, I believe, is when they added 5v5, which was way better. But the next day it dropped even more and it just continued to plummet and fall off. But this is just what happens when you are kind of in your bubble and you don't open it up to outside feedback. Because again, the fact that everybody unanimously had the same reaction, which was, how is this a new breed of shooter? Like, what am I missing? The fact that everybody reacted that same way, I think is just proof positive that this was avoidable if they opened it up to feedback. The danger with all this, and this is, I guess, what I'll leave it out or close it out with, is just that studios may open up to feedback. The problem is for some studios, some feedback is not easily actionable. My point has been there's certain concepts that just will not work. I don't think there was a universe in which Highguard ends up with 100,000 players. Because as a game, it's just not interesting. You know, I think it just doesn't work. I don't think it needed more, like, I don't think more polish would have magically fixed it. I don't think more skins in the shop would have fixed it. I don't think more, clearly 5v5 didn't fix it. At launch, maybe it would have helped a little bit. But I just think as a concept, it's not gonna dethrone an Overwatch, which has a decade plus of community building, of entrenchment, where players have spent tons of time getting to know the characters, the maps, all of this stuff. It's just not going to do that. Times have changed. It's just not. And so if they were opening it to feedback, and let's say hypothetically, they opened it up, they brought people like me, and I'm sure like a lot of you in, and they showed you Highguard a year ago, you probably would have looked at it and been like, I think this thing is DOA. I don't think this thing lasts more than 2 months. You would have been demonstrably correct after the fact. You would have been right, but they can't. What are they supposed to do? Cancel the game? Can't really do that. You know, like, they're kind of in too deep. So they just decide to go, we'll try it anyways. And that's why you end up with Highguards. That's why you end up with King of Meats. Highguard was bad. There's a reason I gave the King of Meat, the Concord Award to King of Meat, because King of Meat was like Amazon's $100 million game, and they peaked all time at 320 players. Pretty bad. It's pretty bad. It's not good. It's not good. I have a King of Meat hat. I think it's upstairs that I got at Summer Games Fest. Like, this was really bad. But this is also a similar thing where it's like they can open it up to feedback, but if the feedback is like this, it's not going to work. What are you going to do?
The Distinguished Dragon donated $20 through Super Chat.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed playing Marathon. I fell off of Arc after level 15 after launch. Marathon scratches that itch that Arc couldn't. Comparison is the thief of joy. I'm going to enjoy it even if it isn't the cool
game to play. Well, I'm glad you are, my friend, and I'm glad that you are enjoying it. And I absolutely agree. Often comparison can be the thief of joy. I think right now we are in a very particular era of the games industry where a lot of the gaming community specifically views games like King of Meat, like even Marathon, like Concord, like Highguard. They view them as existing to spite something they actually want. Marathon exists to spite Destiny players because now that's going to be their focus. They don't get Destiny 3 because of Marathon. So they have this contempt, this bitterness over the game from the start. It's the same reason that people feel this bitterness over like these live service spin-offs, hearing that Bluepoint was making a God of War live service game. It's like, what is wrong with you? Like, what? And so they have this contempt for that game, hoping it fails to teach the company a lesson not to do that again and to give them what they actually wanted. And that creates a bit of a problem because, the only way to get new exciting things is for a company to experiment. I think that's at least the defense is, well, if we never try anything new, you'll never get anything new or exciting. You'll never get those big wow moments and surprise hits. We have to experiment. My point is that the experiments that they're running all seem to be chasing live service money that's just games designed to milk you dry. Horizon Hunter's Gathering exists to spite those who wanted Horizon 3 just right away. They don't get that game because they're making this live service thing. And you're really going to tell me that that's what the studio really thought was the best thing for their fan base? I have it on good authority from multiple people that have been involved with Hunter's Gathering, that even people within Guerrilla Games are like not that thrilled about making the game. They're not they're not that impressed by it. Okay? Like, even the people in the studio are like, And so like, but I think everybody kind of feels the same way. This is coming primarily from the big guys upstairs that sign the checks that say, yeah, Highguard probably is going to die, but if it's successful, it'll pay for 5 other attempts that we had. So we'll give it a shot. It's literally gambling. It's literally gambling on the corpo level. The problem is it's just been loss after loss after loss after loss for years, whether you look at a Highguard or King of Meat or all these other games that have burned through hundreds of millions of dollars from publishers, from venture capital groups. Because in case you're not aware, basically a studio will come together. They'll come up with a pitch saying, hey, we used to work at Respawn. Hey, we used to work at Activision on Call of Duty. Hey, we used to work at these big studios that make tons of money. We want to make a new live service game, and we're offering you a 20% stake in the company if you bankroll development for the next year. And then they'll get venture capital to get people like Tencent to come in, give them money to work on the game, get it far along, and they'll get some more money, maybe for some more equity and publishing rights and all this stuff. And then they launch it, and as we saw with Highguard, if it doesn't go well, they pull funding, the studio shuts down and implodes, which is what happened with Highguard. Right about here, somewhere in here, they pulled funding, Tencent did, and it was just, game's over at that point when you don't have money. It doesn't work. But what's happening across the industry, and this is well documented at this point, it's been discussed with Christopher Dring on his podcast. It's well known. Venture capital completely dried up. Most of these like exploratory publishers, they're not doing anything. They're not throwing money at any little studios, at no startups, because it's not, they don't think it's worth the risk anymore. 6, 7, 8 years ago, yeah, sure, throw a company 10 million, see what they can do. Maybe they'll get a live service game to pop off and make their money back. Nowadays, the odds of success have plummeted. Even with something like Highguard. Let's look at it just on paper. I know I said 6, 7, 8. I knew it. I knew it the second I said it. Even if you look at Highguard, like let's really just break it out as plainly as you can, okay? As plainly and clearly as we can. Let's go big font. Big font. Okay. Number 1, they had the Game Awards behind them. How many studios would kill to have the Game Awards? They had 2 million players. That's crazy. That's absolutely insane. Okay? How many studios would kill to have that? 2 million players. They had Tencent money, millions and millions and millions of dollars accessible. They had talent from Respawn, amazingly talented devs. They had industry connections, and they even had some like, is it sycophantic? Is that how it's spelled? Press/media that was playing, they were playing defense for them. They had all these things going for them, and they still died within 45 days. If they can't pull it off, man, what are we doing? That's why all of these outlets, that's why all these publishers are pulling the money out and not messing with it. The industry has changed. It's not 2016 anymore. Even then, it was really tough to get a live service game to pop off. It was really tough. Nowadays, it's nigh impossible. You have to be so freaking lucky and have such a freaking good game and such an amazingly great studio. You have to be Embark. You have to have a game that has virality and viral potential, cinematic moments like a Helldivers or an Arc Raiders. You have to have all these things lining up perfectly to stand a chance. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. That's why all of the Tencent money has gotten pulled out. That's why all the other guys are pulling money as well, because it's just not worth the risk for them. This just doesn't make sense anymore. So I think you're going to see a lot of these live service games. They'll trickle out over the next year or two, especially the COVID funding ones, because they were able to borrow money basically for free. So you'll continue to see some of them, but I think you're going to see it dry up real fast. I think next gen is going to be a reset. I used to be very, very bearish towards next gen. I was like, they're just going to do the live service thing. It's going to be a nightmare. I think that this has been enough of a wake up call. Enough billions have been burned that finally, I think you're going to see an adjustment and a correction. Very visible failures like Highguard do send a pretty clear message that even if you have all of those things going for it, even if you have the machine that is the Game Awards and all the free promotion from the sycophantic press and media, and you have all of the millions of Tencent dollars, and you have all of this stuff going for you, if you still fail, catastrophically. It's not worth the risk. It's just not worth the risk. It's why people have asked, Great Gaming Reset 2026. People asked, I remember last year, they're like, do you think we're in the middle of a gaming crash? I said, no, not a gaming crash. We are in the middle of a live service gaming crash. Okay, it's a subset of the games industry, but yes, the idea that you can make a live service game pouring $200 million into it and it will automatically be successful, that's clearly not true. That clearly doesn't work anymore. And I think we're seeing the results of it now, where companies still think that they can just throw money at stuff to make it work, and it doesn't work that way anymore. Like, it just doesn't. It just doesn't. I don't know, Luke. Execs don't seem to have any sort of learning curve sometimes. That's fair. The executives might not. That's true. But what they do have a sense for is money. And at some point, the money people have, like, they tend to step in and go, what the hell are we doing? Why are we doing this? What are we doing? And that's why I think you'll see change, especially for next gen, when leadership tends to roll over. Usually you see leaders in gaming specifically last for like 6-7 years or so through a generation, and then they move on. But yeah, I think you will see an adjustment. Yeah. Lastly, the last thing to touch on, I guess, is what a message. The last thing I'll say is that, naturally a lot of the blame and discourse is going to go to Jeff. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I think Jeff helped Highguard a lot more than he hurt it. I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, it only got the negativity because of Jeff. No, the Game Awards placement certainly framed it in a way that made it sound like it was going to be bigger and better than it was. But I think if Jeff didn't promote it the way that he did, this number would have been 3,000, maybe all-time peak. I think it would have been much closer to a King of Meat situation, because I just don't think anybody would have cared. It's like that one story where, like, I think Jeff said at the Game Awards introducing it, he's like, somehow it hasn't leaked after all these years. Turns out it didn't leak because nobody gave a crap. Like, nobody cared. That's why. If they were working on a Titanfall 3 spiritual successor, yeah, it would have leaked. Guarantee you. But I think that's where it's going to pivot and shift towards, is you're going to start to see games like spiritual successor, spin-off single player games. They're going to start to actually stand a chance and probably be greenlit specifically because they're seen as safer bets. But the point for us as the customer base is, if you want more of those like single player games, if you want more of those startup studios to make the first game that leads into the sequel that's a masterpiece, you got to support it. Like, if you see an indie studio that made a game, maybe it's not a 10 out of 10, if it's maybe a C-, it's a strong foundation, support it. Giving them the access to make that sequel that ends up being the masterpiece. KCD 1 is a great example of a game that when it launched was really clunky, really rough, but people showed up and supported it. And that allowed them to fix it up, polish it up, and go to KCD 2, which is a masterpiece in my view. But they wouldn't have gotten the access to do that if people hadn't shown up and supported it at first. The Witcher 1 is like a laughably clunky, often very rough game, we'll say. But the Witcher 1 did well enough that they could make The Witcher 2, which was really solid, had plenty of areas of improvement that they could look to. And then The Witcher 3 came and was a masterpiece. And so you got to support the small studios when they come, specifically when they come with these single player games that have potential. You got to support them. That's the big thing. There you go. Highguard is shutting down. It lived for 45 days. It did outlive Concord. It did indeed, but it was close behind. It was close behind. Witcher 1. My favorite statement was from Neon Knight, who forgive me if I get this quote wrong, but what he said was to me one time, I think when we were in Prague, he said, The Witcher 1 is one of my favorite video games of all time, but it is objectively one of the worst games ever made. It's because he loves the story and the world building and everything of The Witcher 1. And for him, that's top priority. So he's like, I love The Witcher 1. It's objectively a terrible video game, but I love it. Just love it. Anyway, so there you go. Highguard's dead. There you go. That's that.